All right, it's Burzminski and Sadovnik on the Leaders Who Care series here. Welcome, Ed.
Glad to be here. Glad to join you.
Yeah, well, I pretty well got a good idea that you pretty well are a leader who cares, but now we're going to show the world and whatnot. And for full disclosure, I see Ed every early Saturday morning and Sunday morning on the Strand here by the beach. Um, so um, So he's not a stranger that I brought into the series here, but he's doing great stuff, and he's got a little cutie pie dog named Ruby, who's around there somewhere. Maybe we'll see it later in the program. But best place to start at is if you could briefly introduce yourself. And I usually have to put an asterisk on this for men because when I say that, they tell me their title and what they do most of the time. But that's not the question. The question is stuff like where are you from originally? Where are you now? What you feel comfortable talking about family, maybe something you've never told anybody and you want to reveal to the world now. That's always fun too. Sometimes people do that and they surprise me. Tell us a little bit about Ed.
I'm Ed Burzminski. I was born and raised in Brookline, Massachusetts, which is a suburb of Boston. Boston.
Mhm.
And I had a wanderlust to always go west. So when I graduated college, I went to UMass Amherst, studied. I was pre-med and I was on my way to medical school, or I thought I was on my way to medical school. I took the MCATs. And the wanderlust grabbed me, and I came out west and did a little tutoring at UCLA in biology, and ended up staying in California. Hit the coast, couldn't go any further. So go west, young man, seek your fame and fortune. I found my fortune with my wife and beautiful family. So I never ended up going to medical school, which, often I regret, but it is what it is at this point. You're faced with a fork in the road. Which direction do you go? Well, I'll go this way. Maybe I should have gone that way, and it gets a little bit too far away. But
I can relate to that because I was offered my dream job with a pro hockey team up in Canada. And at the same time, I was offered to be executive director of a nonprofit global leadership development organization in Miami, way less money. And the only person that told me to take that was the guy, president of the hockey team that offered me the other job. But I'm thinking I could have been NHL commissioner by now if I would have taken that job. So
well, there you go.
I get it. So
The woulda,
um,
coulda, shouldas.
exactly. So keep going. Tell us more.
Sure. So I ended up getting involved in the publishing industry, magazine publishing.
Okay, I'm going to
Uh,
time you out on that. Tell us about, did you have any siblings when you were growing up?
yeah, I have an older sister. She's 5 years older than me. Um, Dad was Jewish, mom was Roman Catholic, so I get guilt and shame confused. Um, I was raised Catholic. My dad wasn't a practicing Jew. He went to temple once a year on Yom Kippur. He actually converted to Catholicism. Why? Well, my parents are they're World War II survivors from Poland. Like I said, my dad was Jewish, my mom was Roman Catholic. But my dad, his family was moved into a ghetto, and ultimately 26 people from his close and distant relations were murdered in at the Belzec death camp. It wasn't really a concentration camp; it was a death camp outside of Przemyśl, Poland.
Hmm.
And I didn't really know much about that story growing up. I heard little bits and pieces here and there, but I did know that my mom was worked for my dad's family, and when they were taken away to the ghetto and then off to the camps, my dad jumped out of a train. He was a dentist. He was actually in dental school and he was a dental technician. He had a pair of pliers with him and he was able to cut through the little barbed wire in the window of the freight car, and he was able to jump out of the window and jump out of the train. His older brother stayed on the train. His older brother Chaim, who was a physician, said something to the effect of "Let my blood be on their heads," and he ended up going off to Belzec. So I knew some of this stuff. And well, my dad actually came back to Przemyśl, and since he knew my mom, she worked for the family. he went to her apartment and she ended up hiding him. Not only did she hide him, but she hid 12 other people, a total of 13 people that she hid for about 18 months in Nazi occupied Poland, along with her younger sister, Helena. So when the war was over, my dad, he had one more thing to do. So he put a ring on my mom's finger and said, "I want to marry you." She says, "Okay, well, I have two conditions." Okay, what are those conditions? Number one, you change your name. His name was Max Diamant. Diamant is a very Jewish name. With everything that they went through, she didn't want to have him anywhere near Judaism. Not Judaism, but to be recognized as a Jew.
Right.
And she says, number two, you got to convert to Catholicism. He says, okay, since you gave me my life, I owe you. And he loved
Understand.
her.
Yeah.
So they got married. And so that's kind of the guilt and shame confused component. So I was raised Catholic. I went to CCD classes in Brookline at St. Aidan's Church with all the Irish Catholics. And that was quite an experience. So,
Did
it was interesting
you go
growing up
with your siblings
where,
to when you to school and everything? You said you had.
oh, yeah, yeah. My older sister. Yeah, she was 5 years older than me. So she was older. No, she didn't go to Catholic school. It wasn't Catholic school. It was just after school classes. Go once a week with the nuns and the habits and all that kind of stuff. I still got like bruises on my knuckles.
Oh, okay.
Kidding. All kidding aside.
um,
So it was interesting growing up because in Brookline, Boston is a melting pot.
yeah.
So we've got people from all different walks of life, all different backgrounds. I grew up with everybody. I grew up with Chinese. I grew up with Filipinos. I grew up with Black. I grew up with Irish, um, Italian. We had Cambodians. We had a lot of Jews. We had a lot of Holocaust survivors. My dad was a dentist, so he had all kinds of patients that were coming in. A lot of people with the numbers tattoos on their arms. Um, I remember one guy coming in. He was also a dentist. He was enormous, gigantic guy. When I say gigantic, he just was morbidly obese. And I was like, Dad. Oh, he came over once for Thanksgiving, and he had he brought a gift for my mom. She was going to cook. He had a pig wrapped around on his shoulders. Mom's name was Stefania. Her nickname was Fusha. He said, Fusha, I have a gift for you.
Oh my gosh.
That's my dad. My God, he's so huge. My father said he spent a couple of years in Auschwitz and he was so starving that he just never wanted to be hungry again. And the man just can't stop eating. And here's a Jew bringing a pig. Right.
There's a lot to that story. Holy cow.
He could have
Or
brought a cow.
holy pig, I guess I should
Holy,
say.
like, um, so it was interesting growing up, with all these different people and all these different personalities and all these different races. Nobody really cared who was
Exactly.
what. We'd make fun of each other. We'd
Exactly.
make fun of ourselves. I was big on the Polish jokes, how many Polacks does it take to, whatever.
Yeah.
Um,
We use the same
and
ones in Canada, but we insert Newfies in there a lot of
what's
times.
a Newfie?
Newfoundlander.
Newfoundlanders. Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
So the
Got it. Yeah,
Newfoundlanders and the Pol now if they were Polish in Newfoundland, oh, it's a double hit. But
yeah.
so I get
I'll
it. But
bet.
isn't that the truth? Because in Montreal we were the same. We never said we need diversity. We were embracing the diversity at the same
Yeah.
time.
Yeah. Yeah. What was interesting? Um, that was in the 70s. So I'm 61. It's 2026. I'm 61. I was born in 1965. And growing up there, um, what was interesting to me, I didn't really pay that much attention to it back then, but now reflecting on it, it was really interesting because we had a large Black community. We call them African Americans now, but
Hmm?
then they're Black people. And there were again, a lot of Holocaust survivors. And what was really interesting is that there was kind of like, I won't say a camaraderie, there was a recognition, I think, from the Black community to the Jews that had survived, almost
Yeah.
from we feel for you. In the 70s, you're not that far away from slavery.
Yeah.
So people, there was slavery in the family. And here are people who were literally being eliminated, exterminated. So there was a
It's kind of like,
mutual
yeah, you get this, similar um, um, troubles and issues you had in the past, and it kind of like finding a common enemy, if you will.
finding a common enemy. And yeah, I mean, you know, slavery and extermination are a little bit different,
Yeah.
but yet still that whole the slavery part. I mean, Jews were slaves, not only Jews, but Polacks and
Gay
gay
people.
people and
Yeah.
political people and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, there seemed to be this I feel you, feeling,
Sure.
um,
Sure.
which I think is largely disappeared now,
So,
except I
so,
think
so when you were
for
a
the older
kid,
people.
yeah, so when you were a kid, what were you like then? I mean, when you were 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and then going into teenagers, did you have a lemonade stand? Did you read a lot? What did you do?
What did I do? I had one of my best friends was Chinese. I hung out with a lot of Chinese kids. Um, yeah, so I learned to speak, well, I learned to curse in Cantonese. Um, but what did I do? We played outdoors. We went bike riding. We went skateboarding. And when I say skateboard, it's not like skateboards today. I mean, these things were or roller skates, the metal skates, with the metal wheels that
Yeah.
make your brain go. Oh. Yeah, we just spent a lot of time outdoors,
Yeah, know that.
figuring out what to do. Hey, a stick and some dirt. All right, let's play. What are we going to play? I don't know. Figured it out.
Yeah.
Um, it was a time, I think, when you didn't throw things away, you fixed stuff. I enjoyed fixing things. I still do. Take a car apart, put it back together. American hot rods. I was into hot rods
Wow.
a lot with my friends. Um, and it's just kind of like working with your hands, building things, making things happen. Um,
Well, it's funny how you get creative when you don't have a lot of stuff around. You
right?
get creative, and it's fun. And whether it's, sports stuff or, not Legos, but putting stuff together or taking things apart. That's why I find it's interesting when we're kids. Um, what we're exposed to, what we learn, and how that becomes a thread in the future. I find. We would play hockey on the street. I mean, you name it. We're outside,
Right.
and you only come in when you're called for dinner and the lights are going out.
Right. Stickball.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
exactly.
real community though, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. It was a suburb, so I mean, but everybody was kind of close together. My elementary school was right across the street from where I lived. My friends were all nearby. We'd get together and we'd go do stuff. And you're right, sun go down and oh, it's time to go home. Mom couldn't call you. There was no phone call, right? It's like she could,
Exactly. You have a whole choir of moms calling
right?
everybody.
Right. So, I mean, it was a time when you kind of figured stuff out, like you said. You kind of
And
made things happen for yourself.
and you know what's interesting? Someone told me this a while back, and I'm trying to keep remembering it. It said a lot of people were on the front porch, and it didn't even have to be a porch, on the front or sitting in the front and whatnot. So people were talking to each other all the time and around versus everybody in their private backyards not talking to each other.
Yeah. 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 Well, and again, growing up with all these different kind of personalities and different colored people, it- you just hang out with people. It's good people.
And you
Doesn't
try
matter
new
who they
and you
are.
and you go to different people's homes and try different food.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Oh, the Filipino, the adobo that would have, or the Chinese food that would be homemade. It's like, oh, wow, this is really good.
No,
Can you get it at a restaurant? No, it's a special thing that my mom adds. Oh, what does she add? I won't tell you. Oh, okay.
but isn't that
Uh,
great though? Because we
yeah,
wanted to. It's very, Montreal and New York have a lot in common and a lot of t connections, and it's very much like, hey, I'd love to try that food, or that is really good, or try that, and oh, what are you wearing? What's your dad wearing, and what is that all about? Or all these different things that we had in
Yeah,
Montreal. I'm sure like you had in New York that were it wasn't we just it was interesting. There was
yeah, yeah, yeah.
and there was just we romanticize a lot of times the past, but it obviously it wasn't necessarily easy. I don't know about you. We didn't have any money or anything, but we still seemed happy.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I have to admit that I was fortunate. I was raised, uh, fortunately. We were better off than many, not as well off as others, because my dad was a dentist, and he did very well for himself. He was a dental, um, uh, he was a dentist. He was an oral surgeon in Poland, and he became a dental inspector. So he was on a higher level until he was asked to become a member of the Communist Party. And he said, well, I don't want to be a member of the party. And they said, well, you ain't going to work. So he had took the opportunity to leave. He couldn't leave a communist Soviet bloc country, but there was an arrangement between Poland and Israel that Jews could leave Poland and emigrate to Israel. So he did, and he started a dental practice there. I think after 3 or 4 years, he said, "Oh, this heat, man, I just can't do the heat." So he was sponsored to come to America by a group in Chicago, and he had to go to dental school all over again in
Mm.
his late 40s, not really speaking the language. And he was in his 40s with some young people in their 20s. And he was communist country. So, in 1962 and 63, people didn't look very kindly on people from Russia, Soviet bloc, or Poland.
Yeah.
So anyway, he graduated in 66. He started his business, his dental practice, and he did well. He was a very good provider. So I grew up, we scrimped while he was building his practice. And I remember my mom, she did a little thing at home. She learned to be a seamstress, and she had a home-based business where she would sew people's dresses and that kind of stuff. And she would make her own dresses, and we would save money. But I was always wondering, why do we have like 35 2-liter bottles of Coke stashed in the closet? Why do we have dry food stashed all over the place? Why do we have
Right.
cash stashed under drawers? And, it's like, that's odd. Um, but Dad did well. So I
Can
have
you
to
can you
say,
ask? Did you ever ask him why dentists give it's a great marketing program, give candy and lollipops when kids leave the dentist?
he never did.
He didn't do? Okay, that's the first dentist
No,
I know.
he never did that. No, actually, he was a healer, and he enjoyed giving people their smile. That to him was the most gratifying thing he could do. He would do dental work for people at no charge. I remember one night there was a Russian couple that lived down the street. Big burly guy comes in. It was like out of a cartoon. He had a towel wrapped around his head. His cheek was swollen. It was 1 o'clock in the morning. And my father, we lived in a brownstone apartment building. He had his office on the first floor, and we lived on the second floor, a tenant on the third floor, and a couple other dentists on the first floor. So we got a call in the middle of the night. Doctor, my husband, his tooth hurt. My father says, okay, come on over. He's gowning up. He's putting on his little white thing. And I go downstairs with him. And this guy shows up and he's swollen. Oh, doctor, doctor. So my dad sits him down. It was an abscess tooth. He just yanks the tooth out. He was so relieved. And the wife is there with the checkbook saying, how much you want? Anything you want, doctor. How much you want? My father said, no, no, go home. You rest. You come back in a couple of days, and we'll fix everything. And I'm thinking, Dad, what the hell? And my father looks at me. No, you don't take advantage of people when they're in pain. You don't take advantage of people, but especially when they're in pain.
Yeah,
That
and you
was
do, and you develop a relationship for a long term. So with
Yeah.
with respect to that and what he's done and whatnot, what made you go the educational route you went, which I understand biology and stuff, right?
Yeah, I was pre-med because I always kind of had I thought I was a process person, systems, processes, and I looked at the human body as like the ultimate system. There's something wrong with you, you could trace it back, usually could trace it back to some source
Hmm.
and fix the source and symptoms go away and whatnot. And then, they got me into building scale models, buying cars, taking them apart, putting them back together just for the fun of it. Um, they usually were not very expensive. They were never expensive cars. They were piles of junk. Usually they didn't run. And it's like the fun was to get it running. Um, and so, that was kind of fun. But so I thought I wanted to be a doctor. And I was excelled in neurobiology class. I really enjoyed that. But yeah, so then I went to LA and got derailed and went in a different direction. But I always enjoyed magazines. I loved reading magazines, collecting all different kinds of magazines. I wanted to start a magazine of my own. Didn't know much about it. Got involved with consulting, of all things. For a nonprofit in downtown LA,
Hmm.
the LA County Bar Association. Actually, prior to that, I got involved with a graphic arts person, graphic designer. I learned a little bit about computer design and when desktop publishing was becoming the thing.
Hmm.
I learned about that and started training people on how to use this new Mac thing to put newsletters together, flyers together. One thing led to another. I got a consulting gig at Palm Springs Life magazine, and I was training 4 or 5 senior designers who had never touched a computer before and thought, I don't need that. And I learned a lot from them. I'm a very touchy-feely guy. So there's a mouse. Here's what you do, guy. Put your hand on the mouse. What do you do with this? So I put my hand on his hand. He said, "Whoa, what are you doing? Don't touch me." Look, this is how you do it. Oh, kind of enjoyed opening people's eyes to new things. So that became a thing. That consulting turned into meeting a business partner and consulting with the LA County Bar Association on how to produce a magazine, selling, and got into magazine publishing. And I got into nonprofits, and that's what I do now. I help
Yeah, but I'm going to go
chambers of
back for a
commerce
minute. I'm
and
going to go back just
all
for a
right, all
minute
right.
because I know you did. You worked on some M&A projects in different industries too, right?
Yeah, I worked on some M&A projects. It was kind of fun. It was I had a company with this business partner that we were growing. We're growing nicely. Publishing publications for chambers of commerce and nonprofits, primarily chambers of commerce. This was in the 90s, and we brought in a consultant to help us grow. And we had a choice. Do we grow through debt or do we grow by bringing on outside investors? We were young and cocky. We can do this ourselves.
Right.
Lay on the debt. Give us the debt. We'll take it. Um, and then September 11th hit, and advertising sales just tanked. Nobody was spending money on ads. Nobody was buying ads. So we had just got a fairly large revolving credit line and a really large term loan for us at the time, and that was a very challenging time.
I bet.
Um, in hindsight, it would have been much better to have brought in outside investors who would have come onto our board, and could have helped with experience, expertise, and guidance that we did not have. We had we had great idea and concept and execution. We just were lacking that higher level expertise and longer experience. So
That's why
that
it seems that when the championships in sports usually have veterans and young people on the
right.
team.
Well, so we were looking for outside financing to help us get through. We're doing quite well revenue wise. Um, revenue wise. Bottom line was a different story. A balance sheet was a different story.
Yeah.
But I ended up getting involved with an investment banker. It came through my mother-in-law's. She worked for a law firm. Her boss's friend was an investment banker, and we got together. He was a real nice guy. John Palmer was his name. He had worked in investment banking for most of his life, and he opened my eyes to M&A work. We put he helped me put together a book about our business and looking for outside financing for the business. His motto was always the bigger the book, the skinnier the deal. So he liked the books to be real thin but succinct. I got to call on uh, not M&A companies, but what do you call the
Goldman,
investment group?
Goldman Sachs,
Um, no. Then just a type of investment group. It's not. Um,
hedge fund,
keep going.
private equity.
PE, private equity, PE
Yeah.
groups.
Hmm.
So I was tasked with calling the PE groups and doing the pitch, refining the pitch. Hey, are you interested? We're in this kind of a business. This is what it's doing. This is what we're trying to do. Ultimately, it shifted to me wanting to buy a platform publishing company and consolidate this Chamber of Commerce publishing industry that was very fragmented, roll it up into the platform and do a buy and sell, 3 to 5 year
Hmm.
horizon and move it on. And we actually had a deal on the table. It was fantastic. We found a PE group, private equity group, that one of them was all cash. They did not want to put debt on the company, which was really nice. The one we ended up going with actually we had a deal that was uh, 50-50, 50% cash, 50% debt. And a deal was on the table with a platform company. And then the credit market seized up on us. 19, what was it, 2000 and 2009,
Mine, yeah.
2008. Yeah, credit markets just seized up. It's like, oh, crap. So that didn't work out. But
You
it's a good thing
never
that,
know. There's that's what you never know what's going to happen. Just there's always something that could happen. So it's
right?
never done until it's done, type of deal.
Yep,
And
yep.
it's crazy. Um, I want to jump a little bit then. So you did that work, and then now you're doing a lot of work with chambers. I understand, and I love the fact that you're talking about but I don't want to non-Jews revenues, if you will,
Non-news revenue. Yeah,
because most nonprofits make their money or a good part of it from members dues, memberships, and all that.
yep.
So how did that happen? And what does that tell? What is that all about?
Well, it was the publications, really, the publications we put together. So, and I ended up starting this new company, my company, Chamber Marketing Partners. I started it after because the other company fell apart. It was gone. So I'm standing there going, okay, what am I going to do? I have this knowledge about operating. I wasn't the CEO of my previous company. I was the president. I was the operations guy. My partner was the CEO, chairman of the board, and CFO. So I had this knowledge about how to put these publications together. And in 2008, when there was that whole um, mortgage bubble
Mhm.
collapsed, chambers of commerce were looking for non-dues revenue. Dues revenue is membership. Non-dues revenue is all the other stuff. And a lot of them were using publishers to produce their guides, their annual community guides, business directories, that kind of stuff. Some of them were doing it by themselves, but they wanted to have more money. They wanted more non-dues revenue. So they went to the publishers and said, could you give us more money? There was a revenue share. And the
Hmm.
publisher said, no, advertising just collapsed. So a lot of these chambers started to produce these publications themselves. So I'm standing there thinking to myself, what am I going to do? I have this knowledge about how to produce these publications from start to finish, from strategy, not just the operational side, but strategy. What is it you want to say? Who do you want to say it to? And then how are you going to deliver that message? Let's start from there and then create a publication. Publication is just a process, but it's the figuring out what its purpose is the most
Right.
important. And once you do that, you're figuring out you've got a sales strategy. You've got your sales messaging. You know who you're going to connect with, what the audience is, and you'll attract people that want to connect with that audience. So that's generating revenue, ad sales, and then you do P&L, and I'm helping them generate more bottom line, giving them more non-dues revenue. That's how that kind of came about. But now I've been doing this since in this company since 2010. And I started it as a home-based business because my daughter was 4 at the time. My dad was present for me when I was a kid. His dental office was in our building.
Mhm.
So I saw him every day, and I wanted to be present for my daughter. And I wouldn't have given that up for the world. I
Yep.
saw her every day. I was involved. I had flexibility. Did I give up revenue? I gave up probably a ton of revenue, but
Was she
the
on the
relationship,
payroll for a deduction?
sometimes,
No, I
when she
think it's
worked, when she actually worked.
right. Well,
Yeah.
no, that's I'm glad you shared that because we all know life happens fast and you don't get that time back and everything and and it's important and a lot of times you do have to give up something, for it then, but it's worth it. I think I may have told you I have a 90, an aunt, like my second mom just turned 98. And when she turned 96, she told me, where did 95 years go? I don't know where it went,
Right.
type of deal. And it goes by
Yeah.
fast. I want to have time also. And I think that's, by the way, that's good, info for nonprofits in general who are always looking for new revenue streams,
Well, I'll
than
share
just
before you go on, I'll
membership.
share one more thing about that because it's not about the non-dues revenue now. For me now, what's really makes my socks go up and down, curls my toes. Uh, I enjoy helping these nonprofits figure out their value proposition.
Hmm.
Who are they? What is it? If I'm talking to somebody and they want me to help them with a magazine, tell me what's in it for me. If I'm a business in your community, what's in it for me to invest my money and join your organization? Tell me, pitch me. And most of them pitch. Well, we have these networking meetings. We can, blah, 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 blah,
Oh
blah. They
yeah.
list off a whole bunch of features. And I'm sitting there thinking to myself, there's another one. They're just listing off a whole bunch of features without knowing anything about me and my business and what I'm looking for. They just think by rattling off a whole bunch of features, I'm just going to be like, oh, okay, here, sign. No. So now I'm pushing, okay, let's talk about a value proposition. Let's talk about the benefits of why I would want to be a member of your Chamber of Commerce. So that's kind of now my evolution into let's build your value proposition as an organization first before we go out and try to do any of these publications, any of the other things. Let's make you relevant and valuable as an organization.
No,
And
I think
that's
it's
where we,
smart because every time someone hears Chamber of Commerce, they think the same thing of every one of them. And I've been in LA to Miami and in between. And one of my favorite quote of all time is from Maya Angelou, who said, "Most people forget what you said, they'll forget what you've done, but they'll always remember how you make them feel."
right.
And it almost applies to everything. That's if that's where you start, then it becomes personal.
Yep.
That's when you hit gold type of thing for everything. And I do want to have some time, obviously, on something I really admire, and you kind of touched on it a little bit when we started this conversation, but talk about how the Stefi Foundation came about. You mentioned about, early on in our conversation about hiding your dad, mom hiding,
Mhm.
and all that. So, what is the Stefi Foundation, and share about it?
So the Stefi Foundation I started before COVID. Um, I was getting concerned. Well, my mom uh, in the 80s, she started to experience a lot of PTSD from the war. And I watched her go through some really, really challenging times with PTSD. She would relive, she would experience, she would say, I'm in the attic. I see my people, she insomnia, crying for no apparent reason. It was the depression and all that. And it triggered, I believe it triggered dementia for her. And she got dementia. She was a happy dementia, but she forgot everything and she forgot everybody. She forgot the war. She actually went back to being like this happy-go-lucky teenager,
Hmm.
which was great. and I was able to get her into a residential care facility for the elderly. Found some old music from Poland. I put on an iPod for her, and she would just sit there and she sing. She knew all the songs, but she couldn't remember me, but she remembered all those songs. So it was nice to see that. But in the stuff that she had done, she got some recognition. She got recognized by Yad Vashem in Israel. Yad Vashem is the organization that recognizes righteous Gentiles, among others.
Yeah.
So in 1979, some of the survivors, people that my mom rescued, my mom and my aunt Helena rescued, they got together and talked to Yad Vashem and said, "Hey, these two, they saved us and all that." My dad was one of them that was helping. And it got a little bit of national attention. My mom got some recognition. My aunt in Poland, she got recognition, but she was in a Soviet bloc country. So she was like, what's going on? What is all this stuff? Um,
A little Schindler's
uh,
List here, a little bit.
on a very tiny scale. But
There's no such thing as a tiny scale for something like that. One person's big.
one person is big, yeah. And there was a family a couple blocks over that was hiding Jews, and my mother saw that they got hanged for that, including the people that they were hiding. So she's like, "Oh my God, this is what's that in store for me." Lots of stories to tell there, but I won't go into it. Um, so I started to see that I thought she was getting lost. Her story was getting lost, and it's such a powerful story.
Hmm.
Not because of my mom, who she was, but what she did and why. She just felt these are people. Why is this happening to these people? They look different. Why is this happening? So I just felt that I have all this stuff of my parents. I have all these videos. They were fortunate that they were interviewed a lot. My mom spoke at the dedication of the U.S. Holocaust Memorial in D.C. Here's this girl from a farm, literally from a farm in Poland, on a dais with Bill and Hillary, President Clinton, the Premier of Israel, what's his name? The guy from Poland, the President of Poland.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I got
two words, you know.
it.
Yeah,
Valesa, Valesa.
Lech Walesa, yeah.
Yeah.
And there she is. So uh, what am I going to do with all this stuff? I was in my 50s. I'm thinking I could drop dead and I got all this stuff and all the stories and everything. So I thought, well, why don't I start a foundation? I could maybe find people that are like-minded to educate younger people in particular, but even older people, but younger people about tolerance and courage. And so I started the Stefi Foundation in honor of my mom after she died. And my aunt was still alive, Helena, in Poland. So started to pull some educational resources together and started to do a little public speaking, which I really enjoyed. So I put a whole program together around my mom. My sister and I, we are the stewards of my parents' story. It's not our story. We tell it and pass it along. People take depending on how I frame it, different people take different things out of it.
Hmm.
But it became my story or migrated into becoming my story. When I first came to Los Angeles in 1999, I was all gregarious. I wanted to go meet people. I wanted to go scuba diving. I needed to go learn scuba diving. I was in Marina Del Rey. I went to scuba class, and I had taken this course, um, LifeSpring. If you're familiar with it, if anybody's familiar, it's a self-realization course. Put the mirror in your face. Who are you? Do you like who you are? Grab life, seize the day. So I was just coming off that. I wanted to meet everybody. I'm meeting everybody in the class while we're diving together. And there was one German guy in the class, big burly German guy, my age. And his girlfriend at the time was a Filipina girl. My girlfriend was Filipina. And so we got along. We started diving together. We had a great time. Um, he was, yeah, I'm the master race. Anyway, we joked a lot. He was funny. My dad was funny. I like funny people. I like, don't take life too seriously. He didn't take life too seriously. There were little signs of stuff that came out in him. One day, one night, one Friday night, we're driving through the Fairfax district of Los Angeles. And for those that don't know the Fairfax district, it's a very Jewish district. And on a Friday night, we're at a red light waiting for these two men to walk across the street. And they just happened to be Orthodox Jewish men.
Mm,
How did we know? Here's the paces, the hats, we knew.
of course.
So we're just watching, waiting. And my friend Hans says, my girlfriend won't let me burn them. I said, what? He said, Adolf didn't finish the job. So I looked at him. I said, it's people like you murdered 26 people in my father's family. He says, oh my God, I'm so sorry. You don't have a Jewish way about you. Jewish way about me?
Oh
So it
my
wasn't a
God.
very pleasant ride home.
You think?
I called my dad. My dad was in Boston. I called him the next day or Sunday, and I told him what had happened. My father was quiet for a moment, and he asks me, he says, is he your friend? I said, he was my friend. He was quiet for a moment, and he said, be his friend. I literally took the phone from my ear. I'm like, huh? What? When I was growing up, I had friends, hot rods, guns. We'd usually go shooting at the range, usually. Um, we were gregarious, boisterous. And I always thought to myself, if I meet somebody with that kind of mindset, bad things are going to happen. I'll end up in jail. So here I am confronted with this guy. And my dad says to me, be his friend. He says, don't perpetuate the hatred. Talk to him, be his friend. I'm like, holy shit. Okay. I thought my dad would have hatred in his heart, but he told me to open my heart. So I did. I went and I sat down, met with my friend, not using his real name, call him Hans. And I shared with him my family story. He was blown away. There was actually a movie that was made about my parents. It's called Hidden in Silence, the TV movie.
Hmm.
And we watched it. He was blown away. And he shared with me his family history. His grandparents were prominent Nazis in the small town in Germany. And he said he was always told, you either run with the wolves or you're eaten by them.
Hmm.
And I thought to myself, I had some thoughts about that, but I couldn't judge. It's his story. He's the product of it. It's just what he was told. So uh, my dad ended up coming out a couple months later. My dad's a little guy. He like came up to my underarm, but he was mischievous and he was a jokester. And my friend Hans was a jokester, and they got along swimmingly.
Sure.
Here's my father in front of the product, the progeny of the people who tried to kill him, and they're joking around having a really good time. So when I speak, that's primarily to students in high schools and that kind of stuff. One of the things that I challenge people with is, look, there are people you hate. There are people that you say you hate. You voted for this one. You voted for that one. You're a Nazi. You're a this. You're a that. I challenge you. People that you don't agree with, hey, maybe ask them, say, hey, I really don't agree with that, but I'd really like to understand what you like about that. Could you talk to me? Could you help me understand?
Hmm.
What's the worst that can happen? You still hate each other. What's the best? You don't know until you ask. Now, maybe it was easier for me because he was my friend and we already had a relationship, but still, that's the thing that a lot of principals, it resonates with a lot of principals at schools when I'm asked to speak. Respectful conversation and dialogue with people that you disagree with. I think that's powerful. It's key.
No, I think your dad is was right on, and I think we've talked about this briefly. A program that we have called Nonflict that does exactly that. And your dad's right. If you don't, it'll just keep the hatred going on and on and on. It's not easy, but we need to listen more to another person, and the infamous put yourself in their shoes, or
Yeah.
whatever you want to call it, to get to a better place. And it's the only way to do it. And I'm sure there's lots of different stories. I remember the first time, and then I have one more question for you because in LA we say keep them wanting more so you can do a sequel. So we might have to do that. But really quick, when I was in Israel first time years ago, and we're sitting on in the old city on the cobblestone waiting to get into the hostel, and somebody recognizes it, a couple other kids that are sitting there, and they're German, and somebody else, "Oh, what are you doing here?" type of thing. And the rest of us said, leave them alone. And they were there to learn. They were there
Right.
to, and stuff. So we, what good would it have done to hate them too and just keep
Right.
this going? So I appreciate what your father, said there. And it's an amazing example. And to get over that hate is not easy when it's that
No.
extreme hate for a good reason
Well,
too.
just to see the kind of stuff that he saw and to experience the stuff that he saw in the ghetto, dead bodies, all the people. Yeah, I just, I got to tell you, my
Really quick.
wife, my lovely wife, born and raised in LA. She's obviously learned my story. She knew my parents and all that kind of stuff. We were just on a river cruise on the Danube a couple months ago, and we took a side trip, rented a car, and went to Poland to visit my cousin. And we're driving along, going through these old towns and the hills and that kind of stuff. Really, towns like before the 30s. You think you could be back pre-World War II. But we're driving along. I got to get to my cousin's house, and we didn't have a lot of time. But there was a sign for the Gross Rosen concentration camp museum, and I thought, "Ooh, I want to see that." Didn't have a lot of time. I said, "Can we go?" She goes, "Yeah, let's go." We drove out. It was just a little detour. It's way out in the middle of nowhere, of course, and there's not much left of it. There's the barbed wire fence around and the entryway, and there really aren't any buildings left, but the foundations are there, and there's some of the basements are in there, and there's one building that's left that's been rebuilt. A couple of buildings, I'm sorry. So we went through really quick. It was cold. And Lori, my wife, of course, she had heard about concentration. She had seen books, movies, whatever. But to actually have gone to one and
Sure.
stood there and walked around, and there 40,000 people were murdered at that one place. She said everybody should go and experience something like that because you just don't grasp the gravity and the intensity of it unless you actually physically see it,
Yeah,
you
no,
know,
it's
and
under, yeah, it's totally understandable. We need a lot of things people need to see in person out there, and
yeah,
that's certainly one of them. Um, yeah, thanks for sharing all that. It's history, and before I give you the last question, because we're running out of time, um, there's a fellow by the name of Nicholas Hinton. I think you probably know who that is. He saved a whole bunch of kids from the Nazis, and there's a movie and everything about him that's spectacular too. How he did it. With all of that, and everything we talked about before COVID, and we're already now in 2026. Hard to believe. Can you share what you're most grateful for and what you're most hopeful for?
what am I most grateful for?
No, I asked the
I've
questions.
I've learned to be grateful for whatever I have in front of me. Um, you know, I used to go to the gym a lot. I used to go to the track and run a lot. And there was a trainer there asked me, "What's your goal?" Thinking I want to, beat a certain time or something like that. My goal to stay vertical. That's a good one. It's my
Yes.
goal to stay vertical. My dad, my parents taught me money comes and goes. He had to recreate himself several times. Money just comes and goes, but it's what am I grateful for? My family. That I have a daughter and a stepdaughter that can continue that stuff. I got a grandchild.
A bonus daughter, not a stepdaughter, a bonus daughter.
Bonus daughter. There you go. Thank you. That's a really difficult question, but it's not the stuff.
Sure.
Stuff is just stuff. Look at people in the Palisades. They had stuff. They don't have stuff anymore. Stuff is just stuff, but it's
Yeah. And what are you most hopeful for?
ooh, ooh. Um, I am pretty bullish on America, honestly. The United States. Growing up in Boston, you see history. You experience history. You see cannon from the Revolutionary War in Marblehead Harbor, protecting the harbor. Those cannons, there are people like you and me taking up arms so that we could have our independence.
Hmm.
I'm really bullish on America, a place that is ever evolving. And in order to form a more perfect union, I'm bullish on the idea of this country, quite honestly. And the other thing I got to share with you, let me excuse myself for a minute. One of the things that I carry in my wallet, I have to put on my glasses.
Really quick.
I have I have a dream that my four little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of our skin, but the content of their character. I have a dream today. That, to me, is the most powerful thing. And that, to me, is the United States of America.
Well, this is the weekend to think about that. Thank you for sharing that. I'm grateful for a new friend and you know, and Ruby too. And and
Ruby is my dog.
yes,
He's
I
in.
know. They don't know you. Ruby's your dog. And who I generally meet the dog first, and the dog decides to introduce me to the human or not, type of thing. But thank you for sharing all that, what you do, and especially the importance of the humanity that you're involved in is great. And thanks for being a leader who cares and being on the series.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. Thank you for the opportunity.